which generally is not recognized as a literary writer. That is where the problem is. So what I am going to do is I am going to tell you what is right with Chetan Bhagat and what is wrong with him. Now if you look at what is right, you will find that he is a person, a boy who was born in Delhi, and he went to an army public school. Then he studied, and he was admitted to that school. He studied there. Then he also studied in IIT, again a very difficult place to get in. And then he studied in IIM. Now this is the dream kind of education that one can dream of. So that is perfectly right with him. And then he becomes an investment banker, earns a lot of money. He lives in Hong Kong for 9 long years, makes a lot of money, and then he decides that this is not the right thing for him to do, so he comes back to India. And that too at the age of 31 he publishes his first novel. So you can see that here is a young boy who grew up in an army family, did a lot of work, because getting into IIT means that he must be a real bright person. You cannot get into IIT because the normal rate is 1 is to 10,000 students. That is 9,999 are rejected when 1 is selected. That is the admission rate of IIT. If you look at admission rate of IIM, then the rejection rate is still higher, which means that he is an extremely bright, very well, academically inclined student. That is something right. And then again, he makes the right choice to make money, because everybody wants to make money. Are you sure? I mean, if I ask you this question, can you answer? What do you want to do after doing your MA?
Somebody can respond. Yeah, please come.
Anybody?
Yeah.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
After completing my MA, I will go further with my English subject career.
That's all. And what is your ultimate objective after doing English subject? What is your ultimate objective?
Ultimately, after completing English, I will start English language laboratory. I will teach the students. I will earn lots of money by this.
This is what I am saying, that you want to make money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not only money, but this is also my passion, and I like to teach very much.
And then that's right. And then you would like to marry a girl.
Yes, sir. Actually, I'm happy to tell you that I am already married with a beautiful girl. Yes, sir.
Good. Now, this is what Chetan Bhagat talks about, that today's man, what does he want? Today's a young boy, what does he want? He wants 2 things, naukri and chokri. That is what he wants. And I would take you to, you see, his slide number. Okay. Yes. Go to this slide, Destiny's Child. Can you go there, Dilip?
Youth icon.
Yes, this is Destiny's Child.
Yeah, we are on that slide, sir.
Okay, now Bhagat claims that he is Destiny's Child, like Salman Rushdie's Salim Sinai in Midnight's Children. He is destiny's child, he says, because he is born at the right time, when India is booming, when there is enthusiasm in life, when people are talking about Naukri and Chokri. Earlier, can you believe that your father would ever talk about Chokri? Tell me, anybody? Any response from the class?
Sir, please repeat.
I'm
Repeat your question, sir.
My question is that your earlier generation, your father or before that, will they ever talk about marrying a girl that they like to marry? And the answer is no. Okay? The answer is no. Now what he is saying is that there is a burgeoning middle class that wants two things in life. And these two things are good job and a good girl to marry with, so that you can live a decent life. That is what you want. And that's what Chetan Bhagat is talking about in his books. And what then he says, with some values and Hinduism based on post-liberalization India that he lives. Now, third thing that he talks about is that there is a desire for English. Everybody wants to learn English. As you know very well, that there are more and more English medium schools now, even in small villages, not to talk of big cities. Okay? Which means that people want to know English. Now, what kind of English do they want? That is another question. That is the English that they are talking about is because English is a synonym for modern contemporary lifestyle which is promoted by email and multiplex. English language is not an end itself, only it means to achieve English way of living. So that is why he says that I am destiny's child. Now I would like to know from one of you who should just tell me, do you agree that he is destiny's child, that he is like you? Anyone? Hello? Can I talk to someone? Yes, good. What's your name?
Yes, sir.
What's your name?
Sir, I would like to give you Miss Avni. Good afternoon, sir. Avni.
Okay.
My
now,
name is Avni. Can you listen
okay.
to me?
Okay, Avni.
Yes.
Tell me now. Do you agree that you are a
Sir,
destiny's child? Do you agree with this? What Chetan Bhagat talks about destiny's child? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Is he a destiny's child? You know the three things that he talks about? A good job, a good girl or a good boy to marry with, and values of Hinduism based on liberalization, and then mastery of English language. These are three things that he's talking about. Do you agree with him? Hello? Can you hear me? You have a problem in hearing me. Yes, there is a little problem here. I can't hear you. There is a problem. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Can you? Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Okay. So can you reply to this? Please.
Yes, sir. The way he got his admission in IIT, IIM, that were the most reputed institute, and also that being a Punjabi, he got a wife he was loving. So that way also against of the religion and also that region bar. So it was everything that he wanted and he got. So we can say he was a destiny's child.
Oh, good. So you want to be a Destiny's
Could you
Child?
get?
Do you want to be? My second question is, do you want to be like him, like a Destiny's Child?
Yes, sir. Of course, everyone would like to be.
Good. So you would like to be
Thank you,
like
sir.
that. Now that is why he is talking about such people. Okay,
Yes.
you can go and take your seat.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Now the third question that he raised was English. And can we go on to the next, slide on for English, the Dalit goddess. The birthday of Thomas Macaulay every year on October 25th. He started in 2010 and he made actually a temple for goddess English. He's an uneducated Dalit and he did it because he told people that if you want to liberate yourself from the kind of tyranny that you have undergone for ages, the only way is to learn English. That is why you are finding that there are children who want to learn English all over India these days because that is the way to go to upwards mobility. That is, if you want to go up, look at the picture in the next slide, how this goddess is being seen. Foundation stone, Dalit goddess, English temple. It was laid on 30th April 2010 and he worships it every year, this particular temple. And look at the temple, what is it? English, who is, a goddess who is actually in Indian dress, and there is a cap on top, which is English, and then she is standing there. Now, that means that English is the tool through which you can gain what you want to do. Now, what are the implications in the case of Chetan Bhagat? If you look at earlier writers like uh, R.K. Narayan, Raja Rao, Mulkraj Anand, writers in the 1930s, 40s, 50s. As a matter of fact, R.K. Narayan's wrote till his last day, which was somewhere in 1980s. Now, these writers were not confident. They were very confident in using English, but they never said that English is the language that really would help us, help the entire society to grow. Chetan Bhagat, what he is saying is that English is the language that will have upward mobility for everyone. Therefore, he says, I am writing in English. Now, what kind of English is he writing about? He is writing and he is using the kind of English. Take the next step. What is right with CB? Okay. Or no, after that, what is wrong with the Chetan Bhagat? This particular slide. Can you do that? What is wrong with CB? This slide. What is wrong with CB? One point is that he
Yes, sir.
writes. Okay, then one point is that he writes pedestrian prose, very ordinary English, where there are no metaphors, there are no literary devices. He just writes the kind of language that people use every day. And of course, there is another charge against him, that is his stories are two-dimensional, simple stories. There are no there are no other meanings of the story. It is just one simple story that he writes in various ways. Now, what I'll do is I'll read one passage that will illustrate this point. First page says, before you begin this book, I have a small request. Right here, note down three things. Write down something that A. you fear, B. makes you angry and C, you don't like about yourself. Be honest and write something that is meaningful to you. Then he says, do not think too much about why I am asking you to do this, just do it. One thing I fear, he says, write what is the thing that you fear. Then he says, one thing that makes me angry, so write down what makes you angry, your girlfriend or your dog or your dad. You can write anything. Then one thing I do not like about myself, that you sleep too much or you are hasty, whatever. He says you write it. Why is he asking you to do, why is he asking the reader to do this? Very interesting way to begin a novel. And he says, then he says, okay, now forget about this exercise and enjoy the story, which means that the answer to what you don't like about yourself. Now, after you have read this story, you are supposed to have answered this question. I mean, in the beginning, he says you write these things, read this story, and then answer whether these are correct answers or not, whether you were right or not. So what he is doing is he is asking the reader to, inviting the reader to get into the story and see whether there are answers to these questions. Now, these are not philosophical questions. These are definitely not existential questions, as you will find, say, for example, in writers like James Joyce or Camus or Camus or Kafka, or to some extent even a writer like R.K. Narayan tries to answer some of these questions. Now, which means that the story is going to be very ordinary. Now, for an ordinary story, the language that he uses is very, very ordinary. And I'll give you another example of this from one passage that I'll read it. And this is, there are these two characters, these two girls who are talking to each other. Aisha spoke after Radhika. This is page 228. Aisha spoke after Radhika. I want my parents to love me again. I do not want to become a dumb model. I'm sure I can find a better use of my looks if they are worth anything. Any career that makes you compromise on your morals or judges you because you are not an inch taller is not worth it. That if you can go back to why Chetan Bhagat, that first slide. Can you go back? Why Chetan Bhagat?
Yes, sir. We are on that slide.
Okay, now, so first point that I made there was that everything is right with him. Born in New Delhi, married a South Indian, love marriage with twin boys, army school, etc., etc. Then first novel makes him blockbuster novelist at the age of 31. Then he becomes biggest selling English language novelist in India's history. This is what New York Times wrote. And is still blockbuster novelist at 38. Then he has a skill set. Besides, that he writes in English, he has got so many skills with him. That is, worldwide web skills are that he has his website, blogs, Facebook, Twitter, other social media he uses, then internet skills he has, and then most important is he writes inspirational writings. Then he is a columnist for Times of India in English, and he writes for Daily Bhaskar in Hindi. He goes to lecture to IITs, IIMs, other elite, non-elite institutions, and last time that we called him to Baroda, we had a meeting there. I run an association called NRI Parents Association. We invited him there for that meeting. it was actually a Vadodara Chamber of Commerce kind of gathering where there was the highest number of people who attended any lecture. We invited many people to lecture. The highest number went to his place. That so much so that there was no room for people to sit on the chairs provided, and they had to stand. Now this kind of reception he has got from younger people. He is a youth icon. The youth want to first fulfill their own needs. Only after that they're still willing to support a certain cause. Now that is the claim that he makes. That is, first, today's young people want to fulfill their own needs. And he has defined these needs. Needs are naukri and chokri. These two words that he uses. Okay. Then that is a nice girlfriend and a decent urban to marry a nice and then live in a decent urban city. I don't think there is anything wrong with that, but what is important is to earn that living honestly, with integrity and excellence, and without compromising the core values that build our society. This is what he is emphasizing on. And that is why he has become such a popular writer. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay. Next slide is what are his works.
Yeah, sir, we are on that slide, sir.
Okay. Now it is What Young India Wants, 212 non-fiction. Now this book is selling like hotcakes. Because what young India wants, what people like you and other students of your age, what do they want? And that is what he tries to answer this question. Then, of course, there are novels. Two States, The Story of My Marriage, 209. It is a romance, okay, which is turned into a film. Then, The Three Mistakes of My Life, 208. Sports drama. Then Revolution 2020, Love, Corruption, Ambition, which was published in 2011, romance politics. One Night at the Call Center 2005, which is a drama. 5 Point Someone is 2004. Now, fiction. Next. And these are the movies made from these films made from these novels. For example, in 2008, One Night at Call Center was turned into a movie called Hello India. 5 Point Someone, you have seen that movie, Three Idiots in Hindi. 5 Point Someone is turned into a Tamil film, Nan Ban. And The Three Mistakes of My Life, Kaipo Che, named after the word that you use when your patang gets cut. Then in 2013, this year, The Story of My Marriage is turned into Two States, a Hindi movie, which means that every novel that he has written is turned into a movie. Now, when you look back into the history of English literature in India, Indian English literature, you hardly find any novelist so popular that his stories are turned into movies, except one most important example is R.K. Narayan's movie, and what is that? Guide. Have you seen Guide? Okay, so the Guide is one movie, and R.K. Narayan was so angry with the movie that after that he said, don't make any movies from my books, from my novels. Why was he angry? Because he said that this novel has a philosophy behind it, and the movie does not follow this philosophy. So you can see that there's a big gap in the thinking of a novelist who thinks that he is a great thinker, R.K. Narayan, okay, or Rajarao, for example, or Mulk Raj Anand. Mulk Raj Anand, of course, would have loved to make movies from his films, but nobody took his films because nobody took his novels to make films because his stories are not that great. Anyway, so to come back to the point, the other movie is Train to Pakistan. Khushwant Singh turned that novel got turned into a movie, which is a story of India's partition. There are quite a few other movies also, but nobody so far has bridged this gap between the written word and the word in the film. So that gap that exists in written word, that is novel, and visual word, which is film, is there for most of the authors. They cannot override this. But here is an author who is trying to do that. He is himself making the movies. Why? The reason is because he wants to reach the maximum number of people, highest people, to reach them and give a particular message. Now, these are, and as I told you, next is Destiny's Child. Can you turn that slide?
We are
Next.
on that slide, sir. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Now go to that and leave English. Now, what is right with next? What is right with CB? Next, that's it. Now the result is that he has become a cult figure who uses digital, social and print media dexterously and inspires the Indian youth to live and work in India. That is a very important point. He wants people to live and work in India and not leave India. And therefore Shashi Tharoor, who is a major novelist in Indian English literature, as you all know, and he of course these days is a minister also, he has lived out of India practically all his life. He was educated at, he got the best education. I mean, he did his masters at St. Stephen's College, Delhi, where the the cut line is 98% marks at BA. If you have got 98% marks in the higher secondary exam, All India Board, and also at BA, then alone you get into this college, St. Stephen's College, which is the best arts college in India. Now, Shashi Tharoor was educated there. Shashi Tharoor also had all the right kind of inputs as Chetan Bhagat has. That is right education. Then he started writing, but before that he became a diplomat. He worked with UN. He was Under Secretary of the UN before he came to India. And he has something like 15-20 books. One of the best books that he has written is it is known as The Great Indian Novel. The Great Indian Novel, which is actually the story of Mahabharata, which he turns into contemporary India, where you see Nehru becomes Dhritarashtra, etc., and all other characters are there. Very great novel, very great. Why I am bringing Shashi Tharoor? Because if Shashi Tharoor appreciates a novelist like Bhagat at his practically old age, he is not very old, but he is in his 60s. Okay, and that is a comment that he writes. That is, the Samuel Johnsons of this brave new world have found their boss well. As Samuel Johnson wrote the biography of Dr. Johnson, who was an 18th century great man of letters. Similarly, he says that here is a novelist who is actually writing the biography of the present generation of people like you who are right in front of me. Okay? And then Shashi Tharoor makes second remark, his tone is pitch perfect. His observer's eye is keenly focused on nuance and detail. And for him, verisimilitude is all. Underline this, verisimilitude. Verisimilitude is the word that you should remember. Verisimilitude is, what it means is that things should look as they are. Real portrayal of life. That is verisimilitude. Now, verisimilitude is a quality in literature which is highlighted. Okay, but when you come to other novelists, they give more importance to philosophy of life, or what they call as vision of life, and other things. Okay, characterization, complex characters, not simple characters, as Bhagat has. So there are these differences that you find in him, and that is why some people don't like him. Now, next slide. What is wrong with Chetan Bhagat? And what is wrong with him is, number one, that he is a cult figure. He is doing too many things and he is immensely popular. Number two, he provides simple solutions to complex problems, rather simplistic solutions. Now, simplistic means foolish. Simplistic means foolish, okay, to complex problems. So it is like a Hindi movie. A Hindi movie takes up a problem, and because the time is very short, limited, you know, time is 3 hours. Within 3 hours, the movie has to raise a problem and then provide a solution. Like if you remember the movie Nayak, which is now being discussed by everyone, you know, where the hero finds that there is corruption and he just runs and does all kinds of things. He becomes prime minister for one day and sets everything right. Now that kind of simplistic solution is what you know people tell that Chetan Bhagat has. And then again, he has he uses Deus ex machina, that is supernatural characters. Like for example, God becomes a character in this novel. As you all know, that the novel tells, you know, all of a sudden that there is God who gave a call. How can God give a call? How can God make a phone call? That is a question. But that is how the novel is told, that God makes a call. Or there is an open letter to Prime Minister. Okay, now these are things which some people don't accept, that this is something wrong. We don't do it in novels like this. Okay, and then of course his English is ordinary. Then the style is unpretentious and unadorned, and most important, characters are two-dimensional. Now let's take up all these charges against Chetan Bhagat and examine whether he really is a good writer. Now first charge is he is doing too many things. He is immensely popular. Well, a popular writer does not mean that he cannot be a good writer. He can be a good writer and he can be a popular writer. But generally in literature, literary writers are not at all popular. You may argue that was Saraswati Chandra's writer popular or not? Tell me, who can tell me? Was he popular in his day? Or later on he became popular? Was he popular during his day? How many people? Yes.
There is a disagreement. Some say yes, some say no.
Which means they don't know exactly whether he was popular or not. Okay. Well, So not many literary writers are popular. Okay, and not their books are generally not sold during their lifetimes. Books become popular after they die. Okay, they become popular. Many of the most important classical writers are popular after they are dead. So that is one charge. Then he is providing simple solution to complex problems. Is it true? Do you think it's true?
Yes, normally everybody agrees on that.
And what are the problems that you have in this novel called One Night at the Call Center? Dilip, you can talk.
Yeah.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, hello.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. What's your name?
Dipti.
Okay, Diti. So
Yes.
tell me, what are the problems in this novel?
Sir, I have one problem with the novel that the art of correction, art of characterization. That how there is not there, he has not drawn character in deep, so we can have assumptions and we can do a more interpretation, but we have to accept whatever said about the characters.
That is, they are very simple characters. You means that they are not three-dimensional?
Yes, sir.
Hmm? Which character are you talking about?
Means sir, all the characters we have been shown only one dimension of the characters. They are not two or three dimensional because we have to accept whatever Chetan Bhagat has said about the characters.
No, what about Shyam, for example, the main character?
Yes, sir. His character is so simple. He has just problems that ordinary boys will have in their life.
Now, do you not do you think that he has only these problems? Okay, or are there other problems? That is he's not discussing any other problem?
Sir, he has problem with his life only. He does not think about the India the way another character Dhruv is thinking.
You see, what is his age? What is the age of this character? He's a young boy. He's 45. He's 25, 20 things. How much do you think about India? Tell me.
But sir, Dhruv and Sham both are of the same age. So there is that difference that one is thinking about India and one is thinking about his own life only.
Okay. So you think that the characters
Yes.
are not two-dimensional. They are two-dimensional. They are very simple. But
Yes.
what about the plot construction story?
Sir, I just thought that there are these six characters only presents this real India that they want to come out that with clutches that they have that problems in their life.
Because they are young people and
Yes.
they just got their jobs. They have their problems, and the problem is, for example, in one case the problem is that of marriage. So do
Yes.
you think that marriage problem is taken care of or not?
Somehow because India is the place where marriage is at the center of everything. If we see the Shyam has problem of means he was rejected by a girl, so there was that problem within in his life. Dhruv don't think that much, though he has that feelings for one girl.
hmm That is one problem. Any other problem that is there in this novel that you think he has not dealt with correctly?
Sir, I think that how means he has used that a phone call from the gods. If he believes means he as a person of IIT, he does he should not believe in this kind of thing, but he has used that phone call from the god. Why in the end of the novel when he asks that lady that if it will be accepted by his readers, then she easily said that if you can't accept this, then you can you choose any character from the a novel that uh, old man. So he easily accept that no, I will use only God and as a character. So there is that problem. Why this God?
Then What is the tone of the novel? Is it pessimistic or optimistic?
More pessimistic, because no one finds solution in their problem to come overcome from their problems.
Now I pose this question to the whole class. Tell me,
Yes,
do
sir.
you think do you think that he is pessimistic? Anybody else wants to give an opinion? Is he pessimistic or optimistic?
Hello, sir.
Hello?
Sir, can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely fine. Go ahead.
Sir, I want to tell that the tone is not pessimistic, but rather it is optimistic tone.
Okay, so he's quite hopeful about India.
About India, but he brings God between it, and optimistic is because that he uses this God in his novel.
So what do you think about God? Should he bring God as a character or not?
And rather not a character, but he brings God as a solution, I can say.
So do you believe in God?
Yes.
And if you believe in God, do you think that God will provide solution to your problem?
No, sir. Sir, but I can say that God will not provide a solution, but surely we can find hope from this belief.
Oh, I see. So you mean to say that bringing God in the film, in the story, is good or bad?
In this story, it is I can say it is undigestible thing, but he brings we means it is he brings as a hope that everything can be solved.
Okay, so he brings you a hope that India's youth today is thinking forward and is the way forward for India. Do you think that?
Yes, sir. Please repeat.
Next slide. Next slide. What is young India? Just look at that slide. Look at this slide and tell me. This is a quotation from Chetan Bhagat. I think anyone who is progressive is young. You may be in your 20s, but highly regressive in thinking. And what wouldn't be young for me? Demographically, we might have the largest number of youth today, but thinking forward is the way forward for India. Do you agree with this?
Yes, sir.
Now, just switch on the next. Now, then okay. You see, he hasn't received any prize, in spite of the fact that he has written so many novels and his novels are so popular and people want to read it. So much so that this novel was brought to my attention, actually speaking, by my daughter-in-law, who is very young, and she said, "Daddy, have you read this book?" I said, "No." She brought it to my attention and she said, "This is a great book," because she herself is a software engineer. And she says that what he writes in the book is really good. I can connect to that story very well. Now, the question is that he has not been recognized. Indian literary critics don't want to recognize him. What are the reasons that he is not being recognized? One very important reason is, of course, that as you rightly said, that his characters are two-dimensional. There is not much depth in these characters. And the reason for that is that he takes up a very simple situation. Within that situation, he puts these characters. Okay. Number two reason is that his language is simple, without metaphors, without deeper meanings, without much involvement in language. There are two kinds of languages, what is known as a scholarly text and a readerly text. That is a text where a scholar applies mind to find meaning and then give it to you to a classroom. And that kind of text becomes very popular with professors, like James Joyce's Ulysses. If you look at Ulysses, even when I want to read it, I have to take help of some critics. So critics are required to understand a novel like Ulysses, James Joyce's. An ordinary book like this, nobody is required. So that is a question. That's why they say that he is not a great writer, because he has no depth. That's one reason. Another reason is that he writes English, which is very simple. But then the counter argument is that if he writes simple English, people want to read it. That's the kind of English that people use in India. Is he not contributing to Indian English? That is a question. Is he not contributing to involvement of Indian English? The same argument that people use against kind of official Hindi and the popular Hindi which is used in Indian cinema. And officially Hindi is what Doordarshan uses when they announce their news. So that question will remain, right? So there is politics in these awards, and that is why he is not being recognized. Now, this is what I had to say. Do you have any questions? Most welcome.
Yeah.
Hello, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Sir, I have one question from this novel is that why some contemporary writer more interested in to taken some character taken from the epics like Indian epics like Mahabharata and Ramayana. Say for example, in one night at the center, character like Radhika, Ganesh, and Shyam, and also in White Tiger like main character like Balram. Can you listen?
So yes, I am listening. So what do you want? What is your question?
So what do you think about that? What's the contemporary writer's intention behind that thing?
You see, it's a very intelligent question, because these characters could have had a philosophical or a mythological dimension, which they don't have. Shyam is not Radha ka Shyam. There is no Radha, isn't it? And Shyam, when you say Shyam, so you obviously means Radha ka Shyam, that there has to be a Radha. But unfortunately, there is no Radha in this story.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So he's not making it, this is what he's saying, that what he's doing is not making it mythological character. He says that we are living in an India where mythology is there in the background but does not play any role in our life. Because if you think about today's marriages, the way the marriages occur, love marriages or whatever kind of marriages, there is hardly those mythological characters which can really work here. So that is what he is saying. But if you look at another writer, if you have heard his name, Amish, have you heard his name?
Yes, sir.
And what are the novels that he has written? Meluha?
Yes.
Okay, have you read them? Anybody who has read any novel?
I have just listened some names, but I have not read it.
Once you touch this novel, which is on the life of Shiva, Shiva becomes a character there. Shiva is a character. Okay? And there is Parvati. It is all mythological characters, all the three. Maluha, serial, it's a 3 novels in about altogether about 1000 pages are there. Now if you read these novels, you find that he is a Superman. He is not God, mind it. So here is another writer who is extremely popular. Actually, he is selling more than Chetan Bhagat these days.
Thank
And
you.
he's also IIM. He is also IIT. And he was also a financial wizard. He was working somewhere in Singapore or wherever, made a lot of money, and then one morning he decided, no, nothing doing. I'm not going to make money from this. I am going to be a writer. So try to keep track of that, and does not, he does not use his second name, which is Trivedi, Amish Trivedi, but he writes only Amish. He removes his caste system. He says, I am Brahmin, but I am not Brahmin. Now this is New India, where mythology is used in a very, very different way. And Chetan Bhagat is doing something like that. Okay? Any other question? Yes, come on.
Sir, I have just one question again. I have read all the books of Chetan Bhagat, and there are all characters' name is related to Krishna, and every character is somewhat involved in that corruption. Means, does it mean that Chetan Bhagat wants us to make us to think that now in India not Ram Niti will work, but Krishna Niti will work?
That's a very intelligent question. I must congratulate you for the question. Maybe you should ask Chetan Bhagat. You see, he has a website. Do you know that? He
Yes,
has a
sir.
question. Do you know very well?
Yes,
Just
sir.
go to the website, put this right question, and say that this question came from this class, which was using his techniques of connecting with people through videos.
Yes, sir.
You know, social media, it's not a real class. It's that kind of class. Okay, but very intelligent question, I must say. And you should ask this question to him so that you get the right answer. Otherwise, if I give you the answer, it will be from my mind and not his reply.
Okay,
But the
sir.
question is excellent. Maybe what you can do is you can send him an email,
Yes,
okay, and say, this is my question which has come from this class. You can refer to me. You can refer to your teacher, Dilip, okay?
Yes, sir.
Refer
Thank
to
you, sir.
them and say this is what's come. Okay, thank you very, very much. Beautiful question. I don't want to answer. Any other? Hello, yes, please go ahead.
Sir, I want to ask you a question. My name is Hirva. Sir, it's a pleasure to talk to you and a kind of privilege for me to talk with you. Sir, my question is, I would like you if you throw some light on colonial aspect and post-colonial aspect in one night at the call center. Because if we see look at the character of Sham and Broom, there is a vast difference between both the characters. So the way the characters have been portrayed, so at some extent we also feel that in 21st century there is a re-beginning of colonialism and post-colonialism, sir. Because here colonialism and post-colonialism both assemble each other. Because we see, if we see from the perspective of character of Sham, he does throughout the novel he does not raise any boys, and Broom also hates him for that reason. So, sir, what is can we say that 21st century is the amalgamation and combination of colonialism and post-colonialism, where both the things assemble each other?
Again, a very good question. Actually speaking, you have raised a question about India today. Now, India today, dividing into colonial situation and post-colonial situation does not work very well. Simple reason is that there are some people, because of their background, because of their work experience, because of they are still living in the old world as if they are servants and masters. Particularly the way Bakshi behaves in this novel, isn't it? He thinks that he's a master, and all these young boys and girls are his servants. Okay, and ultimately in the novel, how they laugh at Bakshi and how Bakshi is dethroned. That situation is there. You can take it a kind of situation, look at it from colonial and post-colonial angle, that they have thrown a colonial master out who does not, who cannot see how India is changing. Is it okay? Who cannot see how India is changing? That's very good. Now about India in the larger context, maybe one day I'll give you a talk on colonialism, post-colonial in India, or on modernism, postmodernism in India, okay? And then this doubt will be clear, because it needs a whole lot of other dimensions which are not there in this book, okay? Which are not part of today's discussion. Yes, you are right. So far as the India is concerned, both the situation prevail. Okay, post-colonial, because as a political unit, we are definitely post-colonial. We have thrown the colonizers out, but when it comes to social life, we are more or less in colonial situation. Though the rules are in favor of the depressed classes, but the depressed classes, most of them remain where they are today. Not much change has happened in last 60 years. So maybe Chetan Bhagat had this in mind when he portrayed this picture. Your reading of colonialism and post-colonialism will definitely help you understand the novel better. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Sir, another question I would like to ask you. There is a word which has been used by Chetan Bhagat, means Vroom goes on thinking that people are getting fired from call center soon, there is one word which has been used by Chetan Bhagat to describe the hegemony, dominance, and superiority of boss Bakshi, and he has used the word right-size people. So from my perspective, it means that to right-size people means to organize people in a sequence or coherence. So there is a conflict between these two words, right-size and getting fired of the people. So sir, there is a confusion. I want you to solve this.
Now this is the language that he actually borrows from corporate world. The corporate world uses this language. That is right sizing a corporation, right sizing an office, right sizing people, that is removing them when they are not required, because there is no ethics involved in it. What happens to a person when he is fired, whether he has a protection somewhere else, what happens to his family, these questions are simply not considered. If a person does a job and his job gives money to the corporation, he is right, he is correct. But otherwise, this has to be cut down. This right sizing or cutting sizing of the corporation means that the corporation wants a particular size of or strength of people which actually makes it in getting right kind of profit. So profit is the motive behind it. Nobody runs business in loss. That is why there is no contradiction in the terms. These words are taken from corporate world. Am I clear?
Yes, sir. Sir, last question, if you don't mind,
Sure,
I would like to ask you. There is a two-way in literature: art for art's sake or art for life's sake. So, in which category Chetan Bhagat's writing falls under? Means, of course, we can find realism in his novel, and but if we find there is a real picture of 21st century's people, the way people think, the way people believe in relationship, the way people feel agony, pain, and if we see, if we look at the other writer's perspective, if we see Adiga, the way he describes the nation in White Tiger. So, sir, there are some language, metaphor, symbolism in other writers as compared to Chetan Bhagat. So, sir, will people be writing Chetan Bhagat after within upcoming years? Means, will they read One Night at the Call Center in upcoming years? Because if we look at the definition of literature, it is believed that there should be a value of permanence. So, can we consider Chetan Bhagat's writing as art for life's sake? Of course, there is a realism in his novel, but it's a conflict. It creates conflict.
You see, as Shashi Tharoor says, that it is a novel based on verisimilitude, realism. You know how you portray the life really as it is. Okay, so it's a realistic novel. Now, when the situation changes, the novel will not be liked by people. Nobody will read it. It is very simple. If whenever the situation changes, then the situation may change tomorrow or maybe in a few years, right? But as on today, he has become a popular writer only because he describes the situation perfectly valid in a style which people want to read. Now, whether it is going to last or not last, whether it is Adiga's novel or it is this novel, all depends on how situation changes in the world tomorrow. So the test of a classic simply cannot be applied to this novel for the simple reason because behind a novel there is what is known as a vision of the writer or philosophy of life. There is no permanent, there is no basic philosophy of life in this book. Neither there is a vision behind this. So because it lacks vision, it lacks a philosophy of life. Therefore, I don't think it will ever become a classic. That is out of the question. Now regarding Adiga, I cannot say what will happen to that book or many of his books because he also is a writer who describes a real situation, and the situation changes, people don't like it. Is your question answered?
No, sir. Thank you so much for giving me answers.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Any other question?
Any questions? Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. I really enjoyed it. Maybe next time again, we can talk on something else, modernism, postmodernism that she has raised. Okay?
Yeah, the next will be on colonialism and post-colonialism.
Okay, that depends on you. I'll have to prepare something. Okay?
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much, sir. On behalf of all the students in our department, we are very thankful to you for sparing your time, sir.
Okay, I'm just looking where Sunil has gone. He should be thanked because without him, it would not have been possible for me to do this. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, then bye, and let us switch off.